and we'll kick in. So we've broken these tips and tricks into different areas of the system. So I'm going to take you through the countdown via a PowerPoint slide. We'll see how we go. And the first series, what am I doing? And so it's tips and tricks around what you need to do on a daily basis. So kind of using UniPhi as a task management application. And although it probably appears to most people when they first log in, unless they've changed their login profile, when you're in UniPhi and you first log in, you should be on all project summary. You can change that, and that'll be one of the tips and tricks that we're going to show later on. But when you first log in, you'll see information around tasks and sign off. And if I click on tasks, initially back in the day, this was literally just your tasks. Now you'll need it to be set up to have assigned to you automatically. We'll show you that in the tips and tricks. And then you can look at what's scheduled, and you can look at it by type of task that you might need to be doing and by categorization. And it just gives you a running due date if you select schedule of what's overdue and what's coming up that you can scroll through and see. One of the things that's unique about this is that it'll also give you the action. So in the issues system, it'll just give you design review ABC. This will give you the commence legal proceedings action as well. So if there's 5 or 6 actions, you might need to do 2 of them. They're going to be listed in this view. Equally was how these sort of tips and tricks came about, just questions. And yes, we'll be sharing a copy of the recording after the meeting. That come to us on a daily basis. And one that came recently was, I don't want to have to sign off one document at a time. And they obviously didn't know about the sign-off subnav, so we thought we'd chuck it into this webinar. The sign-off subnav goes portfolio-wide, all of the things that you have been allocated to sign off. And so you can actually not even look at the documents and sign them off, which is a little bit scary, but you can do that. And that will complete your part in that document as a bulk update. Equally, there's one tip and trick around this. You can see there's a little number after the documents here. That's referencing how many people need to still sign off that document. Unless you click on the document, you won't find out who that is. But yeah, if you sign this off, the PCG report will still need another person to sign it off. And so, but as far as your job is concerned, you can click on there and click sign off, and all of those documents are now signed off in the application. All right, that's our first 2. What am I doing? The third and fourth tips and tricks revolve around copying documents. Now, the tip in this is to understand how the UniPhi documents system works, and underpinning every UniPhi document is a template. Templates can be edited by the system administrator, and when they do, the template actually increments its version. So the version of that particular template is increased. You don't actually see that anywhere in the system, but we have any document that was created to the old version still needs to exist, and hence you might remove an entire step in a document, and if we removed it from the template, none of those other documents would be able to load. So that's an important concept to understand, because I've got this PCG report that I've got signed off on my One School project here, and I'm going to create PCG number 8, and I'm going to do that by selecting the document. And when you select the document and you can view the document here, one of the options will be to copy it. Now, if I have changed the PCG template since that last document was created back on the 9th of October, I might have removed a step, for example, key issues might have been changed, might have had a different category filter, whatever. You're not going to get that version of the template unless you do what is called a partial copy. So the reason there's 2 options here is if you select this one, it'll copy the entire document, holus bolus, nothing to do, done and dusted, which is why it's already saying, give me the name. If I select partial, this gives me a way of upgrading to the latest PCG template. So bringing in all the new steps and not have all the old steps that have been changed. And all I'm saying is I just want to get the rich text box, because that's the only thing that would be manually keyed in. Everything else is going to be updated by drawing from the data in the UniPhi application itself anyway. So what this says is, okay, there's two rich text boxes in this document, design status and procurement strategy. I want to map them, and you could have a completely different template you're mapping this to, but in this instance, what I'm trying to do is upgrade the version. And so I'm just selecting, give me step 15 and 16 of the initial document and put it into step 15 and 16 of the other one. And now I'm working with the latest version of that template. So that's that. And then the next one in this template, it's worth having a look. Not many people are aware that all of these template controls, one of them is a cost report based on a financial year. And so you can see here, we've got the month's figures, the year-to-date figures, and if I scroll over, you'll see total. And one of the columns is versus the forecast and versus last forecast. Where that data is coming from is from the last document. And so you can actually change which one you're comparing to here, but this is comparing this particular document to the last document that was signed off and showing you the variance. So that's a pretty cool way of being able to say, okay, you got a budget, but what did we report last time? And then how do we compare to what we reported last time? And then you can use the rich text boxes to explain your life away. So not many people are aware of that functionality, and hence it's in our tips and tricks session. All right, I got no idea if I'm on schedule or not. I need to get quicker at maths. But our next range is quite long, and it's fun with rich text boxes. Maybe fun should be in inverted commas, but let's have a look at what we can do in rich text boxes. And luckily I'm still in a document, so I can just jump to one. And we know that these two are rich text boxes because that's what we copied. And so the first thing I'm going to do is just show you, you can add a web link, not just into this rich text box, but in comments as well. And it's not as neat as it should be. It's something on the improvement list, but it's still there. And some people don't know how to get it quite right. So here's any web link. You could even use Sydney Morning Herald, Age, or whatever link you want to incorporate into a document. You can copy its URL, click on the document, and paste the link in. Now, initially, you can see that it's not clickable. But if you highlight the text and click the link and then hit paste, it now is. So there's a little bit of overhead, but the benefit to the end user of using that document and being able to click that link when they see it rather than have to copy it and paste it into the URL bar is quite a lot. So a little bit of extra time from you can save them a lot of time. The next one, hopefully, relates to a table. So when you insert a table into UniPhi, one of the things into a rich text box is to understand that the width of the table. Widths should be 650 pixels maximum for a portrait PDF rendering and 800 pixels maximum for a landscape rendering. This has been defaulted to 645, and you can see that it's automatically selected the class table. A lot of people create tables with no class associated to them. That means the formatting is really, really ugly. And so if you were just to select that drop-down list and select table, it'll automatically apply whatever the CSS formatting or the style guide formatting your branding has given to us from your company, right? So it'll be the color schemes and the font and the border style and all that sort of stuff. And so when I insert this particular table, you can see that it's put a gray border in it. The cell spacing is automatically formatted. It's 2 columns and you're ready to start using your table. So they're the key tips: 650 pixels, and then make sure you use that table class. If you've got a table that doesn't have it, you can right mouse button, table properties, and then select it. So if you select not set when you do the table initially, it's pretty ugly. But if you select table, it's gangbuster robust. It's following your methodology of how your tables should look when they get rendered to PDF. This next one is about images. It's actually possible, and I don't have an image ready, so I'm going to have to create one. If you've got an image that you've copied, to just paste that directly into a rich text box. So if I take, it could get quite confusing, but if I've got an image here now, I've just taken a snip of the screen. So this is now an image. And if I just select copy, I can go into the rich text box and just paste, and it's there. Again, if you want that to fit nicely on the PDF rendering, you want to make that either 800 or 650 pixels wide. So you want to insert, edit the image, and you want to type just in the left-hand column, that's the width, and you want to type 650. If you don't type in the right hand, it'll scale correctly. It won't distort the image. And you click update, and we've now got an image in the document that will fit nicely when it's rendered to PDF. as a portrait. If you wanted to do 800, you know what, these tips weren't even in the list, but I want to roll now. If you want to do 800 and do it landscape, you can insert a page break. That's that one there. And then you can click this little cog in the wheel and make the step landscape instead of portrait, as two examples. So this is hidden by default. You can see hide output is there, but another tip is just to click the little eye here. That does the same thing. So if I click the eye on procurement strategy, this is now ticked as hide output. So you don't need to click that cog to hide the output. You just need to click the little eye. So I think I covered at least 5 bonus tips there, but we'll move on. Another thing that you can do in the rich text box is use this dollar symbol to insert a value rather than have to transpose it from something. So if you're writing a thing like the project budget is, you can then click on the little dollar sign here, and you can use these template variables. And so for this one, I might select the chart of accounts and say, okay, you wouldn't have that many charts of accounts, but this little thing does. And we're going to say original budget. And so that will, when I hit save, will replace that template variable with what the original budget is. And that just means I don't need to go off somewhere in the system and look it up. I can transpose it into here and it will be accurate. The system template probably has a lot of these already embedded in it by your system administrator, but if you're writing documentation on the fly and you just need to grab something, then you can. Similarly, so in that, there's also people's contact details and the like as template variables, but you can also click this little person button, and that then populates different people on the project, and you can do things with them, like insert their phone number and insert their address if you needed to. So if you were to insert Arthur Williams's phone number and address, that's just done there. And again, fix that little gap there, but you're getting that data from the contacts list. You know it's accurate if that contact list is being maintained well. And then the other thing people don't know about the rich text box, this is the last one, is if I click the little view here, it makes it full screen. So it makes it easier to work, but remember you need to unclick that to actually save your progress. And then click that again and you're back into full screen, and you can start typing away and doing what you need to do to finish that document. All right, on to 12. So this 12 to 15 is all again. We've created a document now. We're going to give you some tips and tricks about viewing them. And so you can see at the moment our procurement strategy is hidden, as is the PCG number. I'm going to click the finish step here. And I'm just going to do a little bit of versioning here so I can do some tips and tricks. So I've opened for review. If I click back into the document, it'll increase the version. And I'm just going to come in here and quickly change some text, get rid of that, and I'll get rid of that. So now when I click back into this and I go to view the document, I'm actually viewing version 2. You can see there, version 2. Now, there's some hidden content in here. You can see that procurement strategy documentation text that I displayed isn't being displayed. Now, when you're a licensed user of UniPhi, it might be handy to be able to access that. And then when you render the PDF and issue to someone else, they can't see it. So to see hidden content, you just click the eye again, and now it'll bring in the procurement strategy information there. So that's what the little eye is doing at the top. When you render the PDF, it'll still hide it, because the idea is being it's stuff that's behind the scenes that you're working on in the tool to then share with some third party outside the tool. And so I can do that as a toggle. And then if I go back to version 1, a new set of icons will appear. Because this is a published version, I can now email it. But the main tip we're doing here is this little squiggly button. It's a track changes button. And so if I track changes and put and I come down to the procurement strategy, I'll probably just try again. That's the first one that's going to catch me out because I haven't made the second version public. Let me just do that. If I publish that again. And then, or maybe because it's hidden, I might even unhide it. Let me just do that so I can show you what we're talking about. That'll take a third version. So now we're in version 3. I'll publish it again. Sorry about this, guys. Now what I can do is go back to version 1, click our little squiggly button, and you'll see that it's showing what has changed since version 1. None of this content was actually in existence in version 1, which is why I couldn't see it before in version 1. And then if I was to select version 2, it'll show the difference between version 2 and version 3, which was nothing because I didn't update it. And so which text boxes can be compared? The entire document, actually, even the budget and the version numbers and all that sort of stuff will underline in green when you go back to the old version and click the little squiggly icon. And it'll highlight what's been changed, what hasn't been changed. And you can get that view of information. Normally working a bit better than my demonstration there. Let's hope they get better from here. Equally within this particular screen, you can revert to a previous version. Now, this does actually eliminate data, so it's one to be done with care. But if version 3 was a complete mess up, you can actually revert. And that's what this icon does here. If I click on that, version 3 will no longer exist. We give you one more get out of jail free card to say that's what that means. But now version 2 is the latest version and version 3 no longer is in existence. And then finally, when I want to email this document, it is possible to configure UniPhi with distribution lists. And the way you do that is you use the roles of the system. And so you could create a role link called newsletter, for example, and put people into that role. And when you select project roles, you can then, you can see there's 2 clients here. I can just tick client and it'll go to everyone, or tick, wherever there's a lot of people, team member. And so if you've got a distribution channel like PCG group or common distributions, you create them as roles. In addition to their other role, they might still be project manager, but you create a distribution role, put them into that. And then when you go to email the document, you just select roles and then you can just tick that role. And therefore you don't have to go through and tick every single person that you want to email something to. Okay. That's viewing documents. Document register is just a one-off. And this was one that Murray suggested when I was at 49 yesterday. I needed one more tip and trick to put into this webinar. Coming back into the system. What a lot of people don't know is that when you're in the documents module, which I am now, and you're filtering for templates, the actual columns that are displayed here will change depending on the document that you select, the template filter. So if I was to select, for example, certified progress claim, I get 2 extra very useful, on a certified progress claim, I get 1. On an invoice, I get the other way around. Information, because we know the supplier, because it's a contractual based document, and the progress claim has contractual information in it. Whenever there's a contractual document and you filter for its template, we'll show you which supplier that document relates to. And so in this instance, you can see which is Optimum Construction, ABC. You can obviously go to those contracts and see it there as well, and you can go to their people as well. But not many people knew that this list, including dates sent and processed, if there's accounting integration, invoice date, extra columns are being shown. If I go to invoice, it'll be customer, because obviously you're the supplier. So now it's showing the customer. And again, you get whether it's been sent, whether it's processed, etc., in the accounting system. So that's a trick that not many people are across. All right, now we're getting through it. There's quite a lot of stuff you can do around your own personal profile that could make your experience in UniPhi better. So tips 17, 18, and 19 relate to that. The first one is quite new. You'll need to be on 19 to have this one. To get to your profile, this is an additional free tip. You can just click on the hamburger and then click your name or icon that's there. And that takes you straight to your profile page. Once you're in your profile, you can upload a picture of yourself. You can see I'm looking stunningly attractive there. That's my dog. And you can create your own email signature to go when you email documents out, and your own document signature to when you sign off a document. But the new one that we wanted to get into the tips and tricks is time zone. So if you're working on a multi-location unified deployment and you want, when you create a document, to know that it was created in your time zone at the accurate time and then translate to the accurate time in some other time zone, you need to set it here. It'll default to the system, the deployment's time zone. So each deployment has its own that the system administrator sets, which would cover the majority of people in the organization. But if that's not your time zone, you want to come in here and change it to being where you're located. And then the final one, so avatar, email signature and document signature. And then there's quite a lot of information you can set here for when you log in. But trick on this one, if you're clicking a toolbar bookmark link, it's going to overwrite these settings. So it's only if you literally log in every day does these settings become useful. Otherwise, you just can select them anyway. But down here is your email notification settings. And as you can see in this, I don't want to know anything except when I need to approve timesheets. So if you don't like email notifications, you can turn them off. If you only like certain types of email notifications, you can turn only those types on. The documents awaiting sign-off per delegation or immediately is a little bit obtuse. But what that means is that if there's a hierarchy to your delegations for signing document off, like, you know, contracts under 5,000 by project manager, contracts above by project manager and project sponsor, the project sponsor will only be notified once the project manager has signed it off. So it's that workflow based. One person signs off first before the other person signs off kind of methodology is implemented through this per delegation selection. Okay. Tip 20 is to do with reports. And what I mean by reports is so there's 4 reporting platforms in UniPhi. I mean the one that's called reports under the reporting section in the hamburger. And so when I click on reports, these are, for the technical jargon, SQL Server reporting services. They tend to be tabular based. And there's 2 tips in here actually. So an extra tip, I think I had it later on, so I'll just skip over it when I get to it. But the first one is my reports. So you can see there's a lot of reports, right, that we've developed over the years. And you might have worked out which 5 or 10 you'd like to use, and you just want to see them in a list. Well, every time you run a report, one of the options is to add to my reports. If you click that, it's now part of your list. That's the first step. Then to see your list, what you need to do is select my portfolio from this little filter pop-up here. And now, instead of seeing hundreds of reports, you just get the ones that you like to use. And then if I want to go back to all reports, I just remove that that filter chip. And I'm back to all. And the other one I wanted to do is just taking a little while. Whenever you see the word export, so I'll do the resource custom fields, I'll do project risk export. What that means is it's just flattened the table in UniPhi to be good for exporting to Excel. A lot of the other reports have filters and headings and things to make the report look better, but when you export to Excel, it makes it hard to manipulate. By having the word export at the end of the report name, we've just made it that you can just dump this to Excel nice and easily, put filters in Excel, do whatever you want to do in Excel, pivot tables, what have you. And it's going to come out to Excel quite nicely when you go like that and hit view. And so any report in here that has the word export, that's what it's been designed to do. All right, so moving on. UniPhi is a web application. Some of the benefits of the system actually come from the fact that browsers have functionality that is useful. I've shown this one already in this session, but and the other one I've shown in a previous webinar, but let's do it again. And I'm going to go this time to Chrome to show this. So the first tip is always use lots of tabs. Sometimes in UniPhi, a document will load in a new tab automatically. You can see I've now got 2 tabs up here, one with the document. Oh, that was a kookaburra I took a photo of the other day. It's awesome. And the other one is the document register, and just being able to toggle between the two or use two screens to do stuff where you've got one on one screen and one on the other for multiple tabs. You can have as many tabs as you like. Lots of ways to get there. We can right mouse button, open link a new tab. If you've got a wheel on your mouse, you can click that and it opens in a new tab. Yeah, so definitely worth knowing that opening in new tabs is a good thing. Then this one was presented to me a little while ago. I haven't used it myself yet, but it's curious. In Chrome, there's a unique feature where you can hold the shift key down and select multiple. You can sort of see how they're all selected now. Tabs, and then right mouse button and go add tabs to new group. And so this might be your contract screen group where you've got contract schedule, contract invoice, what have you. And then as you go into another tab, it just will shrink. You can shrink it down. So now some people I see on their screens, they've got 70 tabs open, bit obscene. But if you start to group them, you can still manage that system and know where you need to go to get back to that other information. So I've got a new tab here and then a contract group. I click on it, it expands out. I click on it, it reduces. Wax on, wax off situation. And so again, a nice feature. I use the Control F feature in browsers as well when I'm looking for stuff that I haven't got in my tips and tricks today. So we must be getting 10 extra ones so far. All right, that's those. I need to keep hurrying because it's coming up to the half hour and I'm not quite halfway, but we're going to get halfway on this one. Hopefully you're sticking with me. I'm not going too fast. So this is all about search. My favorite place for viewing what's going on in UniPhi is the communications module. And so in the communications module, it's not a data capture module, it's a search module. And I should say, by the way, this is an area of the system that we're looking to enhance significantly in our next release. So there's been lots of good work already done on that, but not ready to get into the presentation system yet. But so we've had to, develop our own methodology. And I'm a very parametric person. I'll use filtering to get to where I want to be first and then start using search. And so within this, it's quite powerful in that I can look at a project, of course, or I can look across portfolio if I'm looking for something where I don't know where it actually is stored. And then the default filter within this is 1 month, but I can quickly jump back to the entire communications list for this project. That's just for performance purposes, so the page loads quite quickly initially. And then this filtering here can be very useful. So I can say, okay, I want all the correspondence sent by the cost manager or by the project manager, hopefully. And then I can say, okay, that is a comment to a issue, and the issue is about design. And so I've already really reduced that information. And then I can compound that with a text search. And that text search will include comments within the issues as well. But yeah, you can see now I'm down to 2 issues. And again, my right mouse button and open in link, because that might be the wrong one. I can then read it and go, oh no, that's not the one I wanted. Come back here, open, and I'm away and reading what I found. So using a combination of parametric filtering and searching is the tip there. However, there's lots of other ways to find information contextually within UniPhi. A lot of people don't know that our 3-tier resource system is automatically collecting information. And so if I was to go to Arthur Williams, for example, and I'll do that in a new tab and just close down these so I don't get too many. So this is Arthur Williams' profile here. One of the options is correspondence. When I go to correspondence, I get all of the stuff that's been issued to Arthur or has come from Arthur. And that will automatically be filed against Arthur if you're saving emails in from the system with Arthur's email address in the from and to from Outlook. It automatically gets filed against that. And again, then you get some really nice, you can see it's remembered my parameters that I had on the communications module, and you get some parameter filtering, and you can send, have a look at what you've been transacting with him, again, across the portfolio or by selecting a project and seeing it just for that project. So it's not just at the person level. You can get all correspondence with a site or with a organization. So for example, Optimum Construction across all of their locations has a correspondence module. And so this will be everything to everyone related to Optimum Constructions. And then the third sort of contextualized finding information is in the contracts module. Whenever you go into a contract, there is a correspondence register, and that is showing not just contractual notifications, but emails and other things coming into there too. So if I go into the architects module here, contract here, so it's the same piece of information. It's an issue comment. It's a document that's been put into the document system. Could be a risk, could be a contract notice, all being displayed in this correspondence. So and you can see these filters are being honored. Any correspondence relating to this particular contract. So that might be where the supplier is participating in the conversation as an issue. It might be that the document notice went to that supplier on that contract for that specific contract. So this is just related to that contract. So it's all of their certified progress claims and that. The document stuff is even better categorized under the registers, where it breaks it up into those things like invoicing, variations, EOTs, and other documents. And so, yeah, another way to get access to that information. A lot of contextualized. So the same piece of information in UniPhi is stored in lots of different locations. And so if you're trying to nut out and find stuff, it should be contextual to what you're trying to do. If it's something contractual, you can go to contractual. If it's something to do with the organization, but not contractual, you can go to organization. If it's just generic communication, you go to the communications module. Do some filtering, then do some searching, and hopefully find what you need. Okay, we're halfway and we're 2 minutes overdue. So that's nice earned value so far, not too bad. UniPhi is a document management system that can store files from from a file share or SharePoint or what have you. Dropbox you would have seen as an integration we have as well. And so what I'm just going to do a prep work before I share my screen. Let's show some stuff around that. And why is that so big? Okay. So make that a bit smaller. Here I've got file share, and what many people don't know is that you can actually kick off dumping these files into UniPhi quite quickly through the documents module. So if I click on the documents module and I click back to my drawings, here's the files that I want to get into the system. I'm in the documents module. I don't actually need to kick off the document creation process. I can just drop them in to that section, and then it'll say, okay, what template do we want to use to store those documents, which is like the filing system, and away you go. And when I get to the attachment section of that, all of those files are already there. I can actually do that as comments to an issue as well if I want. If I'm in an issue and you've got the comment plus there, I can go back to my drawings and dump them into there as well. So you don't have to click the little paperclip button. You can just file, drag and drop. And you can actually do that with emails. So I'm just going to, again, get something that's not going to be damaging any clauses that I've signed about information. And so here we have 2 emails in an inbox, and I can just actually drag them across and they'll upload as MSG files into that issue. It's not as good as the Outlook add-in because it doesn't show the email body text in the comment. It doesn't go into the correspondence and stuff like that. But if you are looking just to dump emails into the system, you can actually do that. And I thought it'd be something worth knowing because I know some clients who do it, and hence if it's good for them, it's going to be good for others. Okay. And now we move on again. We're now looking at costs and tips and tricks around costs. So we're getting a little bit more technical. Yeah, it gets back to being not too technical if you're not into that a little bit later on, but let's get into some technical stuff now. So in UniPhi, you will have a cost report coming out, and sometimes you'll look at a number there, 28 million. Now, UniPhi is updating this from the contracts module. It's accidentally clicked the original contract, which sorted by that number, which is another tip and trick. But what's what I'm actually do is do by cost code. Let me get that back to where it was. Okay. So what I want to know is, well, that doesn't look right. We've obviously coded something incorrectly. How do you know where that data is coming from? in the contracts module, there is a sub-navigation called allocation. And from what I can tell, not many people are aware of it. And what it does is it just shows you the contracts on the left-hand side here and all of the deliverables that have been coded against those contracts. So this is the furniture, fixture, and equipment code. This is the contract, and these are the deliverables that have been coded to that code. And you might be looking at it and go, oh, that's wrong, man. That should just be against the main works over here. This, let's just call it the something, $430,000. So I can take this smart home $400,000 pending contract and just drag it into the something, and that's where it'll be coded to now. And so it's moved out of FF&E and gone into something. You can see it down here. And so that'll update the cost report. That's fixed my error. I can move on. So total transparent blow up of where the dollars are coming from. And the other one that's not commonly done, if I go back to the cost module, is auto-phasing cash flows. And so I'm just going to do this against a chart of accounts that doesn't have too many codes. But the key to remember is it can be against any. I mean, this setup itself is not too bad, but it's a little bit busy to explain in a short webinar like this, where you've got different phasing methods, including an S-curve, coming in with dates and durations to auto-phase that cash flow. The most powerful one we have, I'm just going to change to cash flow, right? So these are dummy charts of accounts that might not exist in your system. If I put a budget against that particular thing, let's say, whatever that is. So I have a budget, but I want to phase it out over time, is to use the benchmark. And a benchmark will basically go away and look at all of the completed projects in UniPhi with an actuals profile. And we'll use that actuals profile to phase out the new project. And it works really well with the clients we've gotten work on. So if you've done a whole heap of projects, even if you've got them in spreadsheets, you can upload those profiles into the system as actuals for those old projects, and they become the engine room for your S-curve. And so if I just expand the filtering here, you can see that these are projects that are completed. It gives you some metadata about it, how much the phased actual was, and you can say, give me more information about it, like give me the functional units in the building area, and then let me filter on those to filter out to the level that I want. So the more data, it is AI, it's machine learning, it's the first level of that. It's going to use this information as the tool to train the car to drive. It's the tool to train the UniPhi to phase that $5 million out over time. There's some improvements coming to this. You still need to say over what timeline. We're going to automate that. But yeah, it's underutilized, really powerful tool that I wanted to bring into the tips and tricks. Especially developers early stage, they want to get a profile of how they spend going, and it's incredibly accurate. But anyway, if you've got good actual profiles, and there's similar projects like commercial buildings or residential buildings that are similar design, that type of stuff. All right, moving on. Tips 30 to 33. One of the challenges in UniPhi, which has definitely been improved significantly in the last 3 to 4 years, is getting data out, because not everyone is in the system. Of course, we built the product thinking everyone would be. So we had to then build product that would get it out. That was a bit naive of us, but that's the way it was. Everyone will collaborate in our tool, and how fantastic will it be? So one of the most frequently used before we built in other capability is the ability just to screen scrape. And so if you've got a table of information, you can actually just screen scrape copy it into Excel. If I just turn off these charts for a moment, by clicking the little ready button up there, I've got a table of information and I just want to copy it. And then I just Control C. And the key when doing that, so that it doesn't bring in all of the images for red, amber, green and all that sort of stuff, is to go paste and then click this little thing. And it even previews what you're doing. So that looks good, done. And now I've got that data into Excel and I can start to manipulate it in Excel. So screen scraping is one old-fashioned methodology you can use to get data out and send it. Recent updates to both the reporting system. So this system here, you'll note, has PowerPoint. That's a new addition. So if you've got a more visual report in our reporting services reports, you can export that, or if it's just a table you want in a PowerPoint slide, you can use that. And our dashboards in Power BI now export to PowerPoint. while that's loading, another really cool way to get data in, and this is relatively new as well, and it's really cool, is the same methodology for getting data into Power BI, you can get into Excel. So under the data ribbon, under Get Data, you have Launch Power Query Editor, and that opens up a platform for you to call UniPhi's API, which is documented in the UniPhi application. So under the hamburger, there's API documentation, and that'll tell you all the things that you can pull out of UniPhi dynamically. And when you go into the Power Query Editor, it's quite a simple, there's an online video to do it. You could pull in your costs, your cash flow, your timesheet data, anything, and it becomes a live connection. So instead of running the report to Excel like I did at the start of this session and said, hey, you can export these to Excel, you have to do that every time the data changes. You have to rerun the report to Excel. Once you've set up the spreadsheet connected via the API, which is taking a little while. Oh, it's been brought in over here, another screen. This is the Power Query one, and you would just go new source, other sources, web, and you put in the API reference, which is in the documentation I just referred to. As an example, I'm probably stretching the friendships here going this far, but see if I can get there. So that's the URL reference to pull in all projects from the major projects deployment. And once I've done this, I've got to go through a few little steps here, unfortunately. That's all the data. I should put data types and stuff in there, but I don't have time. I close and load. That now is a table in Excel, and I can refresh it, and it will refresh from the data in UniPhi. That's the difference, and that's the cool bit. Looking what next, Lloyd? Yeah, and the other one was the export to Excel from the reports, which I already showed you. All right, moving on. Data quality, right? So one of the things that UniPhi provides is, because it's structured data, it's a little bit harder to mess it up, because you have to put a contract in the contract system, you have to put a contact in the contact system. It's hard to get messy, but it's still possible. One of the systems where it's possible is in the issues system. If you're getting a lot of people logging a lot of issues, it can get quite busy. And I did forget to show the PowerPoint thing. So in Power BI, if you want to export this, so this is an embedded report. If I click on the little bit, you can see export to PowerPoint. Click that and it'll run away and do that. Which I probably shouldn't have done. I'll go to Chrome now to keep working in the system, come back to here. Now, so in the issues module, the party role model is allowing Jane. I'm logged in as Jane because I just jumped to Chrome, and I'm no longer my dog. I'm my daughter, aged about 18 months. And I have some of these that have little checkboxes next to them. That means I'm in a role, like project manager role, that says I can manage information in this thing. So whenever you see a checkbox, that means you can tick it, and there will be action bars up here to do stuff. And so I just hit the graphs again, and I'm going to tick, and you can see we've now got actions. Equally, not all the actions that you would get if you had the ability to do everything you wanted to do. This is just what Jane can do with these particular actions. Because they're hers, she can complete them. But Jane is a team member and hence can't do anything more than that. So I'm going to have to jump to the other system. But that was another tip and trick. Whenever you see a checkbox, tick it and see what action buttons come up here for you to do. And from a quality control perspective, hopefully if I go back into here, it will let me browse away and load. Yes, good. Now I'm admin, so I've got tick boxes against everything. But if these were in the wrong project, for example, I can tick them, and you can see there's a lot of stuff here, and move. One of them is move, and move them to the Boardwalk Renewal Project from the Agnes Water Project. So bulk updating of moving things is a data quality issue. We don't want them in the wrong projects. We don't want them assigned to the wrong people. So again, that's a bulk update option. So I can reassign it from Dennis Adams to Alex Rose, etc. So checkboxes and bulk updating is to try and give you productivity ways of improving the data quality when there's way too much stuff. Bulk updating of resources, moving things from one project to the other. documents, that happens a lot. We have a workflow for CRM that moves from issue sales leads into an opportunity project, which goes into the subsequent win project when you win it, because we always win everything. But equally here, you can see there's actions for data quality that you should check out. There's a lot of action buttons that happen when you start using the tick boxes. Definitely worth looking at. And another one that was introduced to me by a guy I thought was brilliant. He wanted to get really good supplier information, metrics and data out of the system. And so he wanted to know who's an arborist and how many projects have we let to different arborists, for example. And so he created a resource role model that had arborist and acoustic engineer and all these others as roles. But then what he did is when people who he wanted to be able to be put into those roles were put into the contact system. So I'm now in the resources module. I'm in the contact system. And let's say Barry McSpanner was a arborist, right? He would go to the authorized roles and he would tick, let's say he's an architect. He would tick architect and hit save. So whenever you go to put Barry McSpanner into a project, the only role you can put him into is architect. So it removed the probability of Barry being allocated to, when it gets a little bit sketchy, do I put architect or design engineer? He took away that choice because that person could only go in there. And therefore, he's then able to generate nice, rich information, 12 months, 18 months down on, show me all the arborists we've dealt with, show me how much business we've done with different ones, show me who had the most issues, etc. Really good quality control technique. It was actually built to reduce fraud. So you can't put people in to the executive CEO role and sign off invoices. So that was what it was designed for, but there was an alternative view that was used to manage that, which I thought was pretty cool. All right, we're moving on now. We've got a whole heap of tips and tricks to do with the issues. And as you can tell, I have issues because I'm running out of time. So let's get into them. The first one, I don't think anyone on the call will know. If I hover on an action, I get more information. And so I think Graham's on the call. Who created these actions? Because the screen space isn't there to have that information, but we do store it. You can hover on that and you get that information. Equally, if you hover on a button, you will get what that button does. And so all of these buttons they used to have words written on them, and now they have them on hover. And so you can hover on that information and find out. Another one that was developed by accident when I whinged about getting notified about an issue is if you've been notified about an issue, and it doesn't look like that's going to give it to me, so I'll have to bring this one across because it doesn't have as many notifications. So this is my issue for the 50 tips and tricks, and these are all the tips and tricks I'm going through. There's a little envelope button there with a, do not enter image on it. That means unsubscribe. And what that means is I don't want to be told about when this issue has a comment or a new action added to it anymore. I don't want to know about it. It's got nothing to do with me. I was accidentally included in the correspondence to begin with. Just stop notifying me about this issue. So that's pretty new. It wasn't announced very much, so I thought put it into the tips and tricks. And so if you are getting notified issues and you're getting too many and you don't want to hear about this particular one anymore, just click that button and you'll never be told about it again. Okay, got to scroll down to where I was at now. Okay, then some of this stuff I have talked about in recent webinars, so you'd be across all of this if you're a frequent flyer. All of these tables across every single module, there's a table with information, are sortable. So if you want to sort by alphabetical order on sector, you click sector and you get alphabetical order on sector. They're not compounded, so you have to do one at a time. But the current phase is a unique one. It does it in phase life cycle order, not alphabetical order. Priority is numbered, so it's highest priority to lowest priority. Get all the reds at the top for external. You click that twice, you get all the red external RAG indicators there. And then new functionality is able to move these columns around. So if I don't want the location to be there, I want it to be over here, I can just drag that across and it's there. New functionality, again, tips and tricks. I want to add or remove a column, I can click that and add in extra information into this particular dashboard. I can also create my own views. So you can see there's different views here. I can create my own from scratch. give it a name, and then start adding columns to it. Oh, geez, typo. So when I hit hello, it'll come up with what I want to have in there, and I can tick that. This is all new functionality, because it used to take a long time to set these up. It's a lot better now. And I can add other things like custom fields, lifecycle phases into my new screen, and then reorder them around so that I get the columns in the order that I want them. I turn the charts back on. I can start adding in charts. If I go to the issues system, that's what that's doing. Actually, that's the column view. Where's my chart view? Maybe this system is behind the times, but if I come back to summary, it should be there. There it is. So when I click that, I can say I want extra charts in here. And this is just going to be my view. So this only applies to me, not everyone. If I'm system admin, I can actually make it apply to everyone. And so I turn it on. Now has lots of charts, and I can turn them off and on as much as I like on the fly. End users have that ability to do that themselves. They just don't have the ability to set a default system-wide view that people can revert back to. All right, seriously running out of time. I will try and get through as many as I can for the rest. 43 to 47 is resource planning, which is a little bit heavy as well. So we'll see how we go. But in the resources module, there's two things I don't think many people know about that I just want to show. So if I go into a project with some budgeted hours here, Bell Street Apartments, again, tick boxes are your friend. If I was to tick all of them, one of the things I can say is delay this entire budget or forecast or both by 4 weeks. And if I want to come forward 4 weeks, I can go -4 and update the schedule. And what that means is you can see the life cycle phases from the time module are displayed here, and they're the dates of those phases. It'll actually move the life cycle phases at the same time. And equally, if you go into those phases and move them, it'll push these times out. So you can, if you're saying people are working 20% on concept design and 50% on detailed design, you can set all of that up through the bulk add. So that's another thing people don't use. The bulk add is pretty cool. You can say, right, for the concept design, I want all these people to be doing 20%, and that's it. You're done, right? You apply that, and you've got it, and that's there. And then you can move those dates, because this date is coming from what's being put into the time module for the concept design phase. And then you move that concept design phase around, and your resource plan moves around. So don't have to worry about going in and keying in every single cell for a resource plan. The other thing you can do, if I just get out of here, is if you've got a series of people that have got the same profile, like there's two here, you can, in the contracts module, not this one, fill down, or you can copy that profile to other people. And so it'll take Annie Lennox's phase and put it to Dennis and Cindy and Jane and Joe, and they'll have the same profile as that person. So if you've got a bunch of people who are working the similar timeline, you can update one and then copy it to a whole bunch of people. You can also enter the data in as a percent rather than as an hour-based thing. That was cool. I got through a stack of stuff. That's all that needed to say. So now I'm on to 48, earn value. And the one thing I wanted to do as a tip there for anyone who's on the call that's actually doing it, which is broadening by the minute, by the way. A lot of engineers are now using our earn value platform. There's two methodologies for capturing earned value. They all happen in the milestones or the contracts module. In here, you'll see a earned value percentage for a milestone. Let's say it's 100%, and then your progress towards completing it. Let's say I put 10% there and I hit save. Earned value is a timeline thing. It's a time phase thing, something you want to track over time. You might have reached 10% a week ago. UniPhi automatically captures the 25th of October as the time that you reach 10%. You can click on the little magnifying glass and say, actually, the status date for that was 2 weeks ago, the 4th of October. And that will improve the dashboards and the reporting graphs that show that you actually progressed quicker than you can. And that exists also in the contracts earned value module. If I go into a contract that has earned value, and this is something important for people to know. It's good to update as you go, because then you don't have to backward engineer those dates. But if you do need to, you can see the timeline of how you've progressed here. Again, there's a little calendar thing this time, a little bit of a slightly different interface, but these are the deliverables. These are the percent completes showing the earned value. But if the profile was in a different timeline, I can change the date achieved, which is the status date, and say, actually, that was later. It was the 30th. And that will change those graphs and those charts to be based off that particular profile. All right. The last three, which is actually 51, we already gave one free one, but I gave like 10 free along the road, is system admin. So if you're not system admin, you can go and have lunch now, I guess. But there's just 3 tips and tricks for the people we really love in system admin land who make our system hum. Some people have said, can we copy templates? Unfortunately, no. It's actually very technically difficult. So you can copy templates, and you're using my tips and tricks where you have 2 tabs. But when you have text boxes, what you want to do, so not with that, I'll edit this particular template. To keep the format exactly the same, so that between each template, the format of a rich text box is exactly the same, you want to actually copy the HTML. So if you've got a bunch of standard text in here and standard tables and they've all got formatted, if you just copy, like Control A and copy this text box like that, you can get some format change. But if you click this little HTML button and you copy the actual HTML, even if you don't understand it, and you paste that into the other tab that has the HTML as HTML, you're going to get exactly the same template. So that was just a little bit of a technical one for system admin. And the other 2 are quite simple. When you, I'll go to a different view here. When you drill in on a project, most people don't know that you can configure what goes into this details section, which is a nice little overview of the project. You can see here we've got client and project manager. Your system won't have that. How do they get there? In the methodology roles that you set up when you're managing what roles you're using in your business, there's an option to say use in detail screen. If you flag that as yes for project manager and yes for client, as I did here, you can do it for whatever role you like, they will then appear in the details screen. Similarly, if you create a whole bunch of project custom fields, there's an option to say use in detail screen. And then when you run to the detail screen, all of those custom fields will appear here. So building area, for example. And you know, that information that's being stored and entered by you in the custom field that a lot of people can't see because it's data entry screen and only certain people have access to those data entry screens, can now be displayed because they do have access to the details screen and has all information sort of summarized about that particular project. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. We made it. It's 1 minute to 1, and I got through at least 50 tips and tricks from UniPhi. Hopefully there was some stuff there you didn't know. We'll publish the recording of that tomorrow. And yeah, thanks for joining.